All right, everybody. Little double dip of the pump fake today. Jarrett Bailey here. Happy belated Thanksgiving to everybody. Joined by the self-proclaimed quality control of the San Francisco 49ers, my good buddy Grant Cohn. Happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. Good to see you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, self-proclaimed pump fake artist.
That's me. That's me. I appreciate your time as always. I am dressed kind of like an artist. I didn't even think about that. Like if you were like going through like London and you saw me, would you just think I'm just a stereotypical beatnik?
Absolutely. I like how much flavor and style you have in this podcast. I kind of just put on my quality control thing and took a shower and called it a day. So now I got to set my game up. I mean, you got rings on, necklaces on, and you look great. You look phenomenal. 100%.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, you look great.
I didn't expect my self-confidence to go up this much when we did this. So no, this is great. Oh man, I need to have you on more often than I do. This is just fantastic.
Well, next time you have me on, I'm going to wear all my nicest clothes just to keep up. I'm not saying you're wearing your nicest clothes because I'm betting you have a lot of other nice things too. Off? We have a drip off. It's called a drip off. Drip off. Because I can do better. Where do you live?
I live Pittsburgh.
See, in the Bay Area, it's all about dressing down. But so you meet someone from the East Coast, they dress up. I'm like, damn, we all agreed not to do that out here. But this is international, so next time I'm dressing up.
Pittsburgh is such a funny city when it comes to fashion because you can, in the same block, you can see somebody in like a solid suit, waistcoat, good tie, pocket square, good timepiece. 2 feet later, you can see a guy, jorts, Air Monarchs, white thigh socks or white calf socks with like a dirty Cordell Stewart jersey on, and that's Pittsburgh in a nutshell.
Is that the Pat McAfee? Is that the Pat McAfee group? They're wearing the jorts and the Cordell Stewart.
Yeah, I mean, if you saw Dig now. I mean, Diggs. I lived in the South Side. Diggs also lived in the South Side for a little bit, so that makes perfectly. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Like all of those dudes. Like, yes. Absolutely. Yes. So that is Pittsburgh in a nutshell, the true melting pot of the Eastern United States. If I had to pick a spot, that's where.
I've been to Pittsburgh one time. I liked it. It was the time when Jim Tom Sula lost his first game as a head coach. He was surprised. He thought he was going to win that one.
Lost man, was that? I want to say Emmanuel. No, Darius Hayward-Bay had a touchdown that game. If I'm thinking of the correct.
Game. Who didn't have a touchdown that game? I think Roethlisberger threw for like 5 or something. I was like, wow, this guy's the best quarterback I've ever seen. Wow.
That was early in the season too, right? That was like
week 2.
Yeah,
the Niners were 1-0, and everyone was like, "Are they better than they were with Jim Harbaugh?" No.
The answer was very clear. No.
No.
That was a rough stretch for them too. They had what? Tom Sula. Was that before or after Chip Kelly?
That was right before Chip Kelly. That was right before Chip Kelly. Yeah, it was. Those were fun times.
That was a stretch, wasn't it?
That was a stretch and a half.
But it's a good stretch right now for the San Francisco 49ers.
That's right.
I did a piece that you lovely let me write for Fan Nation for all
terrific
49ers.
Piece.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Right now in the NFC, I think that we've been kind of waiting for teams to kind of like show, okay, we're part of this conversation. It's been a weird year where teams just very top heavy in the NFC, especially, or teams are just deciding whether they want to be good or not. I think San Francisco kind of put their stamp like, all right, we're part of this conversation, albeit it was against Colt McCoy, a Cardinals team that's been self-destructing all season long. But when you look at just how well the offense played, how well the defense played, I think this is their best all-around game in a very long time, where the offense is really clicking, all the mouths were getting fed offensively. Ayuk went off, Kittle had 2 touchdowns, Debo had that long run. McCaffrey had, I think, 16 touches offensively. Eli Mitchell had 59 yards on almost over 6 yards a carry. They were playing extremely, extremely well on both fronts. And I don't know, man. I understand that there are some limitations at the quarterback position, which we'll get into. Jimmy looked good, though, for what they asked him to do. Their schedule the rest of the way is a little bit daunting when you look at – they got New Orleans this Sunday. I think that's a game that they should win. They're favored by 8.
Should win it. No doubt.
Yeah, should win
for sure.
But in terms of that division, it's a 2-team race. I think that they're the team that's going to end up on top.
Okay. I'm just going to ask you a series of questions before I get into my
That's
argument because I'm setting myself up to win this one. No. So you think the Niners are going to win the NFC?
If I had to pick right now, yes.
Okay. So why are you more confident in them than the Eagles?
The Eagles, to me, have a better roster. I don't think that, and it's a little bit of a toss-up. I mean, both teams have really, really good rosters.
They do.
In terms of Philadelphia, though, I think offensively they're more dynamic. I think you have a quarterback like Hurts who's a pain in the butt with his legs, has taken a step forward as a passer. I do think that on paper Philadelphia is the better team. However,
Okay.
they have a quarterback that's never won a playoff game. They have a head coach who's never won a playoff game. San Francisco, on the other hand, I mean, their core has been there, done that a few times. I mean, they've been to multiple NFC championship games. They've been to a Super Bowl. We're up by a lot in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl. And I don't think that that's nothing come January.
Fair. That's fair.
So I think that Philadelphia, yes, they're the darlings of this season. And I wrote it in the piece. They remind me so much of that 2019 Ravens team where they just run through everybody in the regular season, don't face a ton of adversity, have a quarterback that's dynamic, fun to watch, an offense that's really hard to stop. But once they get into the playoffs, I mean, you face a gritty team. If they do run into San Francisco, like that's not going to be just a gimme. And I think that they could get blitzed by a team like that come January if they don't. They're a team that really hasn't faced any adversity. And I think that adversity can sometimes be a blessing in disguise.
Okay, that's very well articulated. I think you hit every single point that anyone could possibly hit to express some skepticism of the Eagles, which is fair because no team in the NFL is great. Yeah. None of them. But like, what kills me? Like, let's take a step back. The Eagles have struggled the last 2 weeks. They lost to the Commanders. They barely beat the Colts. They're not looking great, but they're 9-1. Mm-hmm. And you can say like they have no signature wins. They haven't really been tested. All that is true. Then you look at the Niners. Okay, now let's look at the 49ers. They're 6-4. They have no signature wins. The one time they've been tested, they lost by 21. They've lost 3 games that they should have won. So just when you step back, like their resume isn't as good as the Eagles. I mean, they've had similar situations and fumbled more than the Eagles have. But the difference is the Niners have gotten their stuff together recently. Last 3 weeks, they've looked good. At least 2 of the last 3 weeks, they've looked really good. And the Eagles haven't. So is it like a little bit of prisoner of the moment? Like, are the Eagles getting exposed? Maybe. Have the Niners figured it out? Maybe. Or maybe it's just like a quirk of the schedule and we'll see like a little bit more. To me, like the Niners have embarrassed themselves 3 times this year in ways that the Eagles haven't. But that could just be part of the Niners process. Slow starters, figuring out who they are. Now they're healthy. Maybe they'll be healthy the rest of the year. Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo won't get hurt. Maybe he'll keep this up. But it's like, I don't know, man. I wouldn't bet on that. This is the Niners. I feel like I've seen them before. So we give the Niners credit for their experience. But like to compare them to another team in another sport, I can think of them as kind of like the Houston Rockets when they had Chris Paul and James Harden, like a very confident team, but a team that ultimately never won anything. And so, I don't know. Is their experience good? Yeah, they have experience like disappointing you and like getting close and not finishing the deal. So to me, like this team, the Niners are like paper champs. They have been together for a while. They've been crowned a long time ago. They told themselves they were the best team in the league on paper in 2019. They didn't seal the deal. They're all about, the hype and the media saying that they're the best. And right now, everyone's saying they're the best. And I feel like they haven't proven a damn thing yet. But on paper, they for sure, you can make the argument. And you did. And I respect it. But I just like to see them like be more consistent.
Yeah, no, I get that. And you pointed out the losses, excuse me. What was it? Chicago week 1, which I don't know, man. I put an asterisk on that. Yeah, I mean, it's week 1. Teams are still figuring themselves out. It was in a water park. Like that one was just a little bit. That's true. Weird. The Atlanta game was one that they
were hurt.
Won. Yeah, they
were hurt.
Yeah.
They were hurt.
They were.
And then the Denver game, it was week 3. So again, it's possible that this is all fluky stuff. But I guess we'll learn that over the next 4 weeks because New Orleans is better than Arizona, and then Tampa's better than New Orleans. Excuse me, Miami's better than all of them. And these teams are coming up. And then you got Seattle on Thursday night in Seattle. And then you got Washington. So all games the Niners could and should win, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, no, that game against Miami, I think that's going to be a big like test factor for both teams because I think Miami is another one of those teams that they've played well. The offense is dynamic. I think they still have a little bit of questions about them because, they haven't won. I shouldn't say they haven't won anything like under weird circumstances. They beat Buffalo early on in the year, but it was in a trillion-degree heat. A ton of Bills were out. So I think that'll be something big for both teams. Like, okay, if the 49ers beat the Dolphins, that's a dynamic offense.
If the Dolphins beat the 49ers, okay, that's a big win. No one can really make any excuses as to why the Dolphins won or whatever like that. So that's one that I think a lot of people will be circling. But yeah, I mean, this next stretch, home for Miami, home for Tampa Bay. And I think that's something that they have in their pocket is that they're at home for both of those, which is definitely helpful. To Seattle, host the Commanders, to Vegas, close out, playing the Cardinals again. So,
well, let's talk about that Miami game. To me, that's the key game because right now, I mean, everyone's talking about the Niners offense because they traded for Christian McCaffrey and there's a lot of stars on it, but this is a defense first team. This is a defense that's given up 0 points after halftime 3 consecutive weeks. And this is basically a defense that the NFL has no answers for right now. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes did, but no one else has been able to replicate what they do against the 49ers.
Which, by the way, no one else in the league can really replicate what Mahomes and the enemy do. So,
of course. Yeah, so the Chiefs can have their way with the Niners defense, but no one else can, and no one else can follow their script. So now everyone's going to be looking at Miami because, Tua he's a good quarterback, but it's not like he's Patrick Mahomes. Sure. And so people are going to be looking at Miami and be like, all right, what is Mike McDaniel going to do against DeMeco? Because no one knows DeMeco Ryans better than Mike McDaniel. No one's going to have a better plan for the Niners defense than Mike McDaniel. Does it work? Can we replicate it? So it's possible that the Dolphins will expose the Niners defense that week. I mean, they haven't faced a ton of good offenses. Or it's possible that Mike McDaniel will give his best and DeMeco will shut it down and the league will be like, well, damn, we got nothing now. So that's going to be a very big game. The league's going to be watching that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think on the AFC side too, I mean, if you're a team like obviously Buffalo, Kansas City, like a team that could eventually see Miami in the playoffs, like you're going to be paying close attention to that, especially if the 49ers figure out a way to, slow down the offense and they kind of lay a blueprint for, okay, if you do this and this,
that's a good point. Miami. I hadn't thought of it from that perspective, but yeah, it's also DeMeco's opportunity to show the league what to do with Miami because Miami's kind of just having their way.
Yeah,
offensively.
No, for DeMeco Ryans too, I mean, he's a guy who's more than likely going to be a head coach in 2023, so this is a big proving point for him as well. In terms of where he goes, I think that Houston
I wouldn't be so sure about that though. I'm just saying he's a defensive coach. He's only been a coordinator 2 years. It might depend on what happens in the playoffs. Saleh took 4 years. They could always use inexperience against him, but soon it's either going to be this year or next year. It's coming up. He's really good.
There have been examples of guys who were Brandon Staley was only the defensive coordinator for the Rams for a year.
It could happen. It probably should happen.
Yes.
But I just remember this with Saleh. Like he had some good years, and then he got the Browns took Stefanski over him. That was surprising at the time. But so he had to keep. Sometimes I don't know. See what happens.
Offensive guys definitely seem to get more of the benefit of the doubt than defensive guys, and that it's the league we're in now. I understand it. No.
Also, excuse me, coaches of color. It's not fair, but
it's not.
A nice clean cut white guy who has one good year. Hey, he's the next. You know what I'm saying? It's unfair, but that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, and if he stood in an elevator with Sean McVay, then he's thrown in line for.
But as someone who's been around DeMeco Ryans, he seems like his results as a coordinator speak for themselves. Yeah. But as a leader, he seems like the real deal. He played in the league. He has this very upbeat, positive attitude that a lot of coaches can't really pull off. I think a lot of coaches get upset and nervous when they're losing. He really is very calm and upbeat. I'm sure he played that way, and I'm sure it's why he was good. So I think it resonates with a lot of these players. It seems like he's going to be a good. The only thing with coaches like him is who's your offensive coordinator and your quarterback coach. That's the question. So if he has an answer for that, he's in.
I feel like Houston would make a lot of sense for him, especially in light of the Colts going at the Jeff Saturday route, a guy who played in Houston. I think a lot of guys would really rally around that.
He coached. He played there. He played there. Good point. Yeah. I guess he turned down Minnesota.
Yes.
That's a good team.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see. Does he? He might just hang out with the Niners until he finds the best possible. He may not even want a job. I guess he'll have to see what the options are.
There's plenty of guys who just stayed really good coordinators forever. Dick LeBeau made a career out of it. Why not?
Or I think from DeMeco's perspective, he's not even 40 yet. He's got the number one defense in the league. His stock's not going down anytime soon. No. Don't just jump at the first job. Because a lot of times a defensive coach jumps at the first job, gets fired in 2-3 years, never gets another opportunity.
That's true.
So you got to make sure it's good.
Defensive guys, especially, we already touched on it. Offensive guys tend to get more of the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Look at Saleh right now. Saleh's put together a good team, but that quarterback situation is falling apart. Now you're like, uh-oh.
I'm glad you touched on it because that's a perfect transition into my next question. Jimmy G to the Jets next season makes so much sense. So much sense. There's a lot of connective tissue there.
Yeah, I can
Plus,
see
when
that.
you look at the way that they're built right now, I mean, when Brees Hall gets healthy, they got Michael Carter, Brees Hall, James Robinson, two really good receivers, good offensive line, and a defense that's built with young studs. Is that not how the 49ers have ran their team the past few years?
Yeah, it would make sense. I just feel like Jimmy Garoppolo. I want to see how the season ends for Jimmy Garoppolo because he was doing this last year. Then he got hurt, and then the Niners could. I mean, at this point last year, the Niners were thinking, oh, we're going to trade Jimmy for 2 first-round picks. Like they were getting real greedy. And then the thumb, the shoulder, the playoffs, and it's like, oh, you got nothing for him. Like, let's let the season play out because if he can continue this, if he wins the Super Bowl, he's probably going to get a 5-year contract that's huge. And frankly, I don't trust him on a 5-year contract.
If they win the Super Bowl, do you think they're still getting rid of him? Like at that point, like I think that's kind of the bar, though. Like it's the absolute, like, okay, if he wins, then they're kind of stuck.
Isn't that what people said about the Ravens and Joe Flacco 10 years ago? Like that was the worst decision they ever made.
Oh yeah, horrible.
Bringing him back. Yeah. I mean, they might. I don't think it'd be the right move. But also, what they said publicly about why they were moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo is that they said they couldn't afford him. They're like, there's a salary cap, and we want to keep these players, and we needed a cheaper quarterback. Kyle said that. So all of a sudden, if Jimmy wins the Super Bowl, are they going to rebuild their salary structure or like maybe get rid of Nick Bosa and be like, actually, no, we want to spend $20-30 million a year on Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't know. Maybe Jed York says get it done, in which case, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You can make some emotional decisions after a Super Bowl, but we're not exactly there yet.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point.
We'll see what happens. He's got to stay healthy. He's done that one time in his career through an entire season. So, like, it's been 8 games. Like, nice, Jimmy. Cool. Now you got another 7, and then the playoffs. Let's see what you got.
And in terms of, the rest of the NFC, too, I mean, we touched on it already. It's Philadelphia, Dallas, if you want to sprinkle in Minnesota and San Francisco. Outside of that, I mean, we're going to get Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, and who else in the playoffs? Maybe Tampa Bay.
That's why I'm so curious about the Niners. Like, you've literally faced, the Seahawks is like your best win. Nice. Yeah. I mean, the Saints beat the Seahawks. Cool. To me, if you beat the Saints this week, that's your best win. And you should beat the Saints. This is the ramp up to the playoffs right now. You've had a cupcake schedule. You fumbled a few games. It doesn't really matter. Let's see who you really are. Because last week against the Cardinals, Jimmy Garoppolo stood there. He was never under pressure. God love him. He did what he needed to do. But all I know is Andy Dalton faced the Rams last week, did the same exact thing.
Yeah.
The same thing. And no one cares.
Christian Olave over the head of Jalen Ramsey did Andy Dalton have.
No one cares, Andy Dalton, as they shouldn't. But the Niners have one good game in Mexico City against the Cardinals, and everyone's like, boom! And the Niners are like, see? We're 6-4, but it doesn't matter. It's like, I don't like that about this team, man. They need to get more skepticism. Like, people, the way people talk about the Eagles, the Niners need to internalize that and be like, no one believes in us. It's us against the world. No, it's not you against the world. It's you and everyone saying you're the best. But I don't know. I feel like in 2019, that fueled them. No one believed in them in 2019. They were like, well, Jimmy's not that good. And then they went that far this year. I don't know. Ever since then, there's been something strange about this team. They win 3 games, and they're like, boom, we proved ourselves. Don't lose to the Saints. If they lose to the Saints this week, it'd be really bad. But it's got all the makings of a trap game. It's like you just did all that extra travel last week. It's a short week. Emotional win. You're looking toward the Miami Dolphins. Like, on the other hand, it's almost December. This is a veteran team. They know this is the time to not overlook an opponent. So I'm picking the Niners to win. I don't think the Saints have enough offense to really do anything against D'Amico's defense, but I also think it's going to be a close game. The Niners are averaging 19 points per game against non-divisional opponents. What the hell is that, Jarrett? Jesus. Explain that one. 19. I didn't know that. And like 2 weeks ago, they were floundering for 3.5 quarters against the Chargers. So, and now they got to face the Saints, who they're really underperforming, but frankly, they do have a lot of talent on that defense. They got DBs, they got pass rushers. I'm curious to see if the Niners play down.
The quarterback, though, that's the thing. Like, it's either, it's Andy Dalton more than likely or Jameis Winston. Like, none of those guys are going to be world beaters.
To me, this feels like a 24-14 game, 23-13 game. But, it should be like a 31-10. It should be pretty much a repeat of last week. A dismantling, but I don't expect a dismantling for some reason.
They're 8.5-point favorites last time I checked. So
yeah, I wouldn't bet on that game.
I teased it down. Don't worry. I teased it 2.5.
8.5.
Yeah.
Nice. I don't even know what that means. Does that mean that you like put a part? I'm Jewish. I don't do this. I'm sorry. My Jewishness won't allow me to make these bets. I'm sorry.
If you like build a parlay, but like you're not too confident in like all the spreads, you can do a teaser, like a 6-point teaser. So let's say that the spread's 8.5, teases it down to 2.5, and then you build that. It's less odds, but if you make it like a bigger parlay, then you can still win decent money.
Did you like how I pretended to follow you? I was like,
yes.
Okay, got it. Now I understand it.
I'll send you a step-by-step thing. It'll be great.
Thank you.
I'll help you make your first sports bet. That could be our thing.
And then I'll lose $50 and I'll hate you for it. It's your fault.
Well, don't.
It's your fault, Jarrett.
Yeah.
That happened to me 2 years ago with my friend up to Tahoe, and he was like explaining to me craps the whole weekend, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna play. I lost $200 in 15 minutes.
Don't worry.
I was like, man, it's your fault. You told me I was gonna be good at this.
I have friends that play craps, and they're like, dude, you'll make money. I'm like, I'm not a casino guy.
Man, I lost money so fast. I was like, man, it doesn't get much more fun than that, guys. Let's do that again. I'll be right back.
The closest thing to a casino that I do is if like FanDuel gives you like $10 in casino creds, and then I'll just like play virtual roulette, throw it on red, and hope for the best.
You can't do that in California, and that was on the ballot, and we voted against it. I can't explain that one. I voted for it.
California.
You can't vote. You can't gamble. No, I think I don't understand why. I don't even understand why. But yeah, you can't do it.
Interesting.
Can't do it. Not that I would, because again, my Jewishness doesn't allow me to.
Yeah.
I think other people should be allowed to.
Of all places, though, California seems like a shoo-in to be able to do it, you know?
I don't understand. I think it's because I don't even know.
Sports gambling.
I don't even know. Sports gambling.
In terms of the rest of like the playoff picture that could form, Buffalo beat Detroit. That was fun. Josh Allen's arm is worrying people. Then Von Miller, they've been bit to hell by the injury bug, by the way.
Suddenly, the Niners are the only team with injury luck right now, which is amazing.
Which is weird. Very weird for that team, like especially over the past couple of years.
So strange. The one person that can't get healthy is Eric Armstead, and it doesn't seem to matter. Although it will. That's the one thing. They're going to need Eric Armstead to come back. If they're going to make this run to the Super Bowl and actually win the Super Bowl, I don't think they can do it without him. Like, their pass rush the last few weeks has not barely been there. And it hasn't mattered because they faced freaking Cooper Kupp, Austin Eckler, and
Colt McCoy.
It hasn't mattered, but it's going to matter. They had zero pass rush against the Chiefs. Our Armstead, like, I'm not the biggest Armstead guy, but he is a good player. I mean, he's not going to get a ton of sacks, but he'll create pressure. Like, he creates a positive impact. They're paying a lot of money for him, and they've been fine without him for now, but at a certain point, they're going to need him back. And it sounds like he practiced yesterday. He may be getting closer, which is a good thing. They just got to keep him healthy now.
In terms of their defense, I mean, there's been a little bit of questions about the usage of Jimmy Ward. I saw that Jay was talking about it on Saints podcast. I can't remember the name of it. Sorry to whomever hosts that Saints podcast. But in terms of how they're using their DBs, I mean, Travarius Ward's been a great pickup this year. But it appears that fans are a little bit questionable about the usage of Jimmy Ward.
Yeah, you got to give D'Amico Ryans respect and credit for having a strong opinion and sticking to it. He seems to feel... I can't speak for him, but it seems like he feels going from Ward and Tart to Hufanga and Gibson is a big change, and it seems like you get guys who actually catch deflections. Sorry, Jimmy, he caught one this year, but it seems like Ryans feels like he has two playmakers in the back end now, and he wants that. And now you put Jimmy Ward, who I think is a better safety than a nickel. I don't think D'Amico cares. I think he feels like, you know what? You're not a playmaker at either spot. You're a good tackler at both spots. Let's put you at nickel, and I'll have two guys who can intercept passes in the back end. And I think so far you can't say that the defense has been worse because of it. I just think it's interesting. Like, they have this guy, Samuel Womack, who's a rookie. I think he's probably
looked really good in the preseason. I was a big fan of his.
I think he's probably – he had a pick in the last game at the end in garbage time. I think he's probably a better nickel than Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward's not a nickel. I think Jimmy Ward should probably be playing safety over Gibson, but you can't argue with the results at this point. So kind of a tough spot for Jimmy.
I mean, as a Steeler fan, it reminded me a lot of last year when they were using Minkah Fitzpatrick in that role for a little bit because they had nobody else to do it.
Right.
And then fans were like, what the hell's wrong with Minkah Fitzpatrick? Well, there's nothing wrong with him per se. It's just the fact that he's wearing 100 hats on that side of the ball where he's not able to do, his normal center field lurking and make plays. Now, they seem to have found at least a rotating door at that position, and Minkah is playing really well. So I am interested to see how they use different nickel guys going forward. If they try to use Womack more like that, that'll be something to pay attention to for them.
I mean, it's going to be interesting this week because the Saints have weapons. I think no one's looking at the Saints Everyone's overlooking him, and they probably should. But you got Olave, Jarvis Landry, Jawan Johnson, Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara. They got weapons, so let's see how Jimmy Ward does this week. He can face Jarvis Landry. That's a tough matchup for him. Then you got Diamador Lenore going up against Chris Olave. That's a tough matchup.
Demo Lenore, by the way, one of the coolest dudes I've ever interviewed. I love talking to him.
He's cool. He's
a
definitely
very
cool
guy.
Absolutely.
Before I let you go, because I know you gotta skedaddle here in a minute. You want to see how stupid my life is?
Please.
All right. So there's a Dolphins fan account. Dolphins fans hate me, by the way. You follow me on Twitter.
Are they taking receipts? Oh, I'm on that. I'm on that. Oh, that's funny, man. I'm glad I'm not like part of that. That's pretty funny because I said that Mike McDaniel should not take that job and that it would ruin his career. So I was wrong about that.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm all for goofy fun. Don't get me wrong, but this dude took the time to like make graphics, make like a 64-person bracket. Like I'm genuinely concerned about that person.
You got to let the Dolphins fans have this moment because like they haven't had anything to brag about since like Ace Ventura won.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Nothing.
Before last season, they hadn't had consecutive years with winning seasons since 2002, 2003.
They're a very passionate fan base with nothing to root for since like Dan Marino. In fact, I bet if you go around their airport, there's still pictures of Dan Marino at like 28 years old and his little Jerry curl. Like,
well, I mean, who else are they going to put there? I mean, they had Dante Culpepper for
Jay Fiedler.
Yeah, a lot of just Matt Moore.
Yeah, young Ryan Tannehill. That's good.
Dude, yeah. They paid Ryan Tannehill $96 million. Remember that? 6 years.
Hey, dreams do come true.
Yeah. We talk about all-time bag getters. Like, I know that Chase Daniel's the joke that we make, but Ryan Tannehill, all-time bag getter.
Dude, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do it again, dude. He's doing it right now. He's going to get another bag if he stays healthy, and I can only applaud him because the last
pay him per season.
I mean, look, if he could keep this going, which I don't, he's never done it, but if he could keep this going, he's going to make the argument that he's a top 10 quarterback, right? Someone's going to say that, and someone's going to fall for it. And then they're going to give him the money, and they're going to be like, hey, okay, let's call Jimmy and get him in for minicamp, and be like, oh, Jimmy didn't return your call today. Jimmy didn't call you. That's what they said about he got this contract, and he never calls you back in the offseason. He goes dark. He treats it like a 6-month of the year job. Yeah, man, I can't wait for someone to reward his next contract year effort. Like, he's marketing himself. This is marketing. He is not that guy. I'm sorry, and not very few people love football the way that Tom Brady and Jerry Rice do.
Right.
But they can market themselves that way in a contract year. Just don't fall for it, please. Come on, we know Jimmy. We all know Jimmy. He's been on the block for about 10 years. We know him. He's doing it again. God love him. Jimmy from the block. He's doing it again. You got to give him respect that he can make money when it's time to make money.
Now, look, there will be a team that does it. I mean, we touched on the Jets, maybe the Giants, depending on what they decide to do. A team that's like built pretty well and just needs a quarterback, and then say, all right, that'll do.
A team that doesn't know him that well. That's why Robert Saleh knows him. Robert, if you're watching, come on, man. You know him. You know that I know that you know him. Maybe the Giants. Although, really, is Jimmy an upgrade over Daniel Jones? I don't know about that.
Yes. Oh, come on, Grant. He's an upgrade over Daniel Jones. Come on now.
You put Jimmy on that.
Daniel Jones, but
you put Jimmy on that Giants offense with Richie James Jr. and Darius Slayton. I mean, I don't know. I'm so skeptical of Jimmy. He's got the best defense, the best weapons right now, the best left tackle. Dude, finish the deal, man. Let's see you do something.
Like, I'm not sitting here making the argument that he is a top 10 quarterback. He's a guy that needs everything to be right.
It's right. It's all right for you right now.
I think like a younger Dak Prescott when he was like a rookie second year. Like if everything is right and everything's good, then he can make plays.
Everything is right and everything is good. So I want to see him win the Super Bowl, like you think he will, like you predicted he will. I didn't say win. You didn't say that. I'm just kidding.
I said they'll make it.
I'm just kidding.
I think they're playing for the right to lose to Buffalo or Kansas City. But
doesn't it feel like Kansas, like those two teams are going to run the league for a little bit?
Feels like it. It does feel like it. Buffalo,
like
when they get healthier, yeah, definitely. I mean, this has been a year of injuries for them. But yeah, it seems like those two teams and then the rest.
Frankly, it feels like Kansas City's league because I don't know. I mean, like losing Brian Daboll, we were all excited about Ken Dorsey at first, but now it's like
everybody's watched him slam around a tablet in the press box in Miami. We're like, oh, he's a sociopath.
Yeah, maybe he's not a cool, calm, collected. I don't know. Anyway, I got to go. Hey, if you want to call in and tell me what you think of the Niners, you can go to my channel soon. I'm going to be doing a Cohn phone, or you can chill with Jared. I don't know what Jared's doing. I'm not trying to take
I'm doing a pump fake later at 2 with Nick Faber for Honolulu Blues for the Lions stuff. So that's what I'll be doing. But hey, appreciate you, brother. We'll do this again soon.
Thank you. Good to see you guys.
Later.